All right.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of A Contagious Smile where every smile tells a story. All right, I got to put it out there right up front. This is Christian's very first time ever on a podcast, and he chose
Yes.
us. We are so lucky and blessed that he decided to come on here with us. Christian is a dedicated husband and father, which I can't wait to get into. He is also the co founder of the Ripple Effect Fatherhood. It's a nonprofit organization, and he is actually just a down to earth, nice guy, which is so hard to find these days, as we all know. Thank you so much for letting us be your first.
Gosh, Victoria, thank you so much for having me on. Like I told you, I mean, just the title alone, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I was like, do I like how do I come there? Like where are you at? Like how do I get there? How do I it's just a beautiful thing. And already just talking to you, it's just been a blessing just being here even virtually. So thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. Now, not that that's not putting a prerequisite on anything, because I'm laying out the line of what you're supposed to expect, I guess, when you get interviewed. And I'm not your typical interviewee, so this ought to be fun.
All
Um,
right.
so you grew up without a dad and a single mom. Kudos to her, because we got to take our hats off to single moms.
Yep.
That is a hard one to do. Your mom and your dad separated because he got into an addiction. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So, my dad was in and out of my life for the first, I'd say 7 years, 7 to 10. And when I say in and out, I don't remember specifically. I just remember he would be in for a short amount of time and out for a long time. And mainly because of his addiction to drugs. So he did suffer from substance abuse. And it was one of those things where as I got older I realized that my mom, her mindset behind it was, hey, he Christian needs his dad, you know and so when I got older, well, let me backtrack. When I turned about 7 to 10 years old, that was the last time I saw him. I can remember we were walking to the park, and I had no idea what was going on. I thought it was a just a normal day, and sure enough, we we were on our way to the park, and my dad is deaf and mute, so she was doing sign language to him, and I could kind of tell from their expressions that he was on his way out again. But I didn't know that'd be the last time I saw him until actually I think 2 years ago. So 16 years, or actually last year, is when I saw him again. So 16 years roughly. But yeah, substance abuse, and I grew up without his presence. And it was just me and my mom.
Did you ever learn sign language?
I not he wasn't around long enough for me to like be
Right.
proficient with it, but I knew some of it for a little while, because he would actually, when he was there, he would take the time to write out, he'd have a bunch of words on a note sheet of paper, and we'd go one by one, and he'd sign it, and I'd have to go through it. And but now, I mean, my wife, she knows more sign language than I do because she's teaching our sons. So,
I love it. I love it. I
mhm.
have a master's in sign,
Oh
and
wow,
you can see on my hand the "See I love you" symbol. Makes it a
that's
little
beautiful.
difficult now that I'm an amputee, but I
Mhm.
still sign. So I mean that is a wonderful thing, and it's great to teach kids because it really teaches them so much. I think it should be an option in school. But, they have all the other languages. They should make ASL an option. I think because it's just I when I go to hospitals and I help families that you have a child that's being has a tracheostomy or a child that's just intubated for a period of time, that child can't convey what they need. And so I come in and I tell them, I'm going to have your kid tell you I love you with the same hand that you held when they give birth, when you give birth to them. And I tell this child, you learn 5 words, I'll teach you one word of your choice, but it's not a naughty word. That's your choice. You can have any other word you want, not a naughty word. And then I tell
Right.
the kids, I'm going to teach you how to scream with your hands, and nobody's going to tell you to be quiet. And they think that's
Mm.
the coolest thing. It's like the coolest thing. And then you have your own little individual language. So I'll give you some little pointers to teach your kids.
That'd be great. That'd be great. It's actually, no, with you saying that, it's been really great with my son, because I mean, my wife, it was her idea, and she started teaching him like right away. and something that she learned was that, hey, even when kids aren't watching, or even when they're not looking at you, they're paying attention.
Absolutely.
And so she would always do the sign for milk or for please or for whatever the case. And then just out of nowhere, as he got older, he would sign milk or sign please or whatever, he'd do this. And we're like,
Yep.
what do
I
you,
want
and I'm like, yeah. And I was like, what? You were actually paying attention? And so he
more than
actually,
you know.
yeah, yeah. And he's great. My wife, I'm so grateful for her for that. And one thing that I will say, because I want to give her a little shout out. Um, it was one of the most beautiful things. I told you that I reconnected with my dad last year, and I I I was there in person with him. My wife was back in Texas where we were living. And so I got on FaceTime with her, and I was like, hey, I wanted her to be able to see him and meet him. And man, it's gonna bring tears to my eyes, because like she actually took the time to learn how to sign, hi, my name is Maddie, how are you? And I had no idea. And she got on, and I was just blown away. It was one of the most beautiful things ever. So I definitely appreciate ASL and everything that it has done for me and my family.
So kudos to her. And you could go home and do the I love you sign to her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You could tell her that you could say, you're beautiful. That's
Mm,
beautiful. So
okay.
get you a couple brownie points up
Yes, yes,
there.
yes. I will remember that.
Just
Good
circle
thing
the
this is
face.
recorded.
Yes. So it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So how was it, Christian, growing up without a male role model in your life? I mean, you have a strong woman, because it takes a strong woman to be a single mom. I mean, I
Mhm.
know, but that it takes a lot. And so, and you don't really realize it until the kids are older. Like the kids don't realize it until they're older. But how was it growing up without a male figure?
Yeah, so not having a male figure in the household was definitely tough. And I'd say it got more tough as I got older.
Sure.
Um, and there's a couple reasons why. So first thing I will say, I will give a shout out to, I have two uncles, and two uncles that, one of them was military for a while. He retired. The other one, he worked in law enforcement. Really great guys. They definitely led a great example for me to follow. With that said, not having that father in the household definitely made me feel, as a young man or a young kid, and then into a young man, it made me feel like there was something missing. There was a void that needed to be filled, and nobody else could fill it because nobody else was my biological father.
Right.
And at least that's what I told myself in my head. And so I grew up in Chicago. I grew up in the inner city. And so when I was in the inner city, it's unfortunate, but it it wasn't as apparent to me, because a lot of the kids that I hung around or associated with, they were in similar situations. They didn't have their dads present, so it was kind of normal in a sense. And
Hmm.
then when I got to middle school, and then a couple of years in high school, my mom moved us out to the suburbs, the suburb called Woodstock, Illinois, and it was a very different demographic of people. And so a lot of those kids came from mom and dad households.
Right.
And so that experience was very, 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 I'll say, tough for me, because I played sports. I played football, I played basketball. I was very involved as much as I could be. And so in that, you know, my friends' dads are coming to the games. My friends' dads are coming to the practices, picking them up. My mom didn't have a car. She still doesn't have her license to this day. She doesn't want to drive. Yeah, she makes it work, right? But she never had a car, so I was always getting rides home from practice, rides to school, whatever the case may be. So that was tough, and that really, it made me question a lot of things. Is it something about me? That why wasn't I more important than the drugs? Is what
Right.
as that's what goes on in a kid's mind, because what
Right.
else what else do you know?
Right.
And so that really caused some confusion in my head at an early age. But I will say the benefit of it was it taught me, or it forced me, which a lot of people can relate to grow up faster, right? Because
Right.
it's just me and my mom, and now we're in the inner city, and the inner city's got its reputation, and so in my mind, I have to protect my mom. I always got to be that protector, and so it kind of forced me to grow up fast. I got a job when I was 15, and in order to help my mom pay, in order to pay for my own stuff, so that she didn't have to worry about paying for my bus fare and my whatever the case, or whatever I had going on. So that's kind of how it affected me early on and throughout my childhood.
Did you ever have resentment to your mom for not having your dad in the house?
I wouldn't say I had resentment. There was one time though, I can remember, and maybe she can remember too, because I'm sure she'll watch this. But there was one time I remember we were standing at a bus stop waiting on the bus because you know what I mean. She's like, "I'm not getting my license," and honestly, driving in Chicago, I don't blame her. Okay, but we were standing at a bus stop, and I don't remember how we got on the conversation of my dad, but we kind of I was a teenager, and we kind of had a little argument, and the argument led to me saying, "Well, mom, I think he does, like I said, mom, he does care about me." And for whatever reason, that was the argument, that she was saying he doesn't care about you. I was saying I think he still does.
Right.
And I understood where she's coming from. Now as an adult, I completely understand, right? Because it, her doing it all by herself, her trying for all those years, letting him in. All right, you got to go because you're doing the drugs again. All right, let him. It's I couldn't understand it as a teenager. I won't say that he didn't care, but I understood where she was coming from at that point in time, and so that was the only time where I had some sort of resentment towards not her, but just the situation of like, hey, like I still want to believe that he cares.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Tough. But you know what? You got to give kudos to that woman. You know,
Absolutely.
I tell people all the time, if you're a child who's grown up with a single mom, out of nowhere, just call and say, thanks. I love you. Thanks for everything you've done. Because that means everything. Like it means the world to us moms. It's the simplicity of something of that small nature that does it. It's just amazing. So
Yes.
you had challenges growing up in your teenage years. What were the challenges being that you didn't have your dad or a in-home role model as a man?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's funny. I noticed the challenges as an adult. Like I noticed the challenges that I had as a teenager now that I'm an adult and I'm married and I have a son, right? So like, for example, I mean, marriage in itself, like now that I'm married, I've been married for this November will be 7 years. And like now that I'm married, I see everything that I missed out on, because as a teenager is when you start to pick up on, okay, dad treats mom this way, and dad's this way, this is how husband should be, and so I realize now how much of that I missed out on. And not to say that if my dad was there, I would have been the perfect husband or I would have had everything that I needed. I don't believe that, but I would have had some kind of foundation to go off of, you
Right.
know? And unfortunately, just being in the house with my mom, and just to give you a little bit more context, my mom started working night shift when I was like 9 years old. So, and she did what she had to do, and and super appreciative of it, right? She did what she had to do, and she got me to where I'm at today. You know what I mean? Like because of her sacrifices, I'm where I am today. But that in itself left me at home by myself a lot, and kind of, and just not having any foundation of, hey, this is kind of what you should be pursuing as a man, or this is how you should treat your wife or whatever, because honestly, if he was in the house, maybe she wouldn't have had to do that, you
Right.
know, and so unfortunately, and to get even more into detail, if he had been present, maybe I would have gotten more of that nurturing, loving from my mom that she would have wanted to give me, and not to say, like I said, like not to cast blame, but that's just the facts, right? That's just what it was. But yeah, I mean, I know, as far as being a husband, I missed out on a lot. I missed out on what being a husband looks like. I just knew I just knew the importance of love. I knew the importance of marriage. I knew the importance of a covenant under God, but I didn't know how to be a husband. And then furthermore, I didn't know it, really how to be a father. Like I just knew the importance of being present and trying to teach him the right way. But at the same time, I didn't know that I was still learning myself. Like I've got this new little life, but I've still got to learn. I've still got to. I'm still living my life at the same time. So there's those are some of the challenges that I realized as an adult, that I missed out on as a teenager.
Tell me, what was it like when you got to be a dad? That first moment when you were like, oh, I helped create this little beautiful face.
Man, so my son's name is Kylan. He is,
Beautiful.
yeah, he is he's 19 months now. I
Oh,
just yeah, he's
little
just
age.
yeah, it's a great phase, honestly. And so that first moment, whenever the doctors held him up, right? Oh my gosh. First of all, he was this just little blue human being, right? And just for a split second, and then you know what I mean. Then the blood starts to circulate and stuff like that. But I don't know how it all works. I'm not a science guy, but when he came out, and I just looked at him, and I was just, you know, the feeling was really strong, but I don't think it was any stronger than when I first felt him kick. You know, like when I first felt him kick, I was like, okay, like this is something.
My boy.
Yeah, this is my boy. Like this is something that I can't, like, everything else in the world and society, like everything just kind of took a back seat, you know, and I realized that like there's so much more to this life that I have not even tapped into. Like
Right.
there's a little person that just kicked my ear from inside my wife's belly. Like what is that? What is that? But whenever he was born, I tell you, it was just whenever he finally came out, it was, and he came out a week early, and I'm grateful for that. Um, because he came out on August 28th, so his birthday's 8/28, and Romans 8/28 is one of my favorite Bible verses. You know, all things work together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And gosh, it was just such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful moment. And it was just a moment in my life where I was like, okay, like I have, like, just here's all my love, right? Like just here's all my love. And same to like my wife, you know what I mean? It was already like, but here's now both of you, like we're all one, like here's all my love.
Oh,
And we're gonna figure this life thing out together. That's really what was going on in my head.
that is so beautiful. Oh, it gives a lot of people hope because it's so hard to find a decent person anymore these days. Everybody's out for themselves, and then if they don't get what they want, to heck with you,
Yeah.
bye, over, and it's gone. But when you're a dad, is he a daddy's boy or a mama's boy?
I think right now he's a daddy's boy.
And you're
I
like,
think,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right now, and I tell you what, like, man, he's a daddy's boy. Like, I am doing like any chance I get to just hold him, you know, and just look at him and just watch him and look for the me in him and then look for his mom in him. Like, I just, I am just any chance I get to just give all of me to him. It's I take it, and I think he notices. And not to say that, first of all, my wife is an amazing mother. Like I'm not taking away from that. I just think that he's just got that kind of pull to daddy right now. And then but he has his moments where he's like, all right, back up. I need mommy's nurturing love, mommy's soft love. And it's usually when he's doing something he's not supposed to and daddy gets on him. Right?
Oh, cute. Are y'all gonna have any more?
Yes, my wife wants a little girl, and we already have a name picked out. So
What's her name gonna
I
be?
I don't know if I can say it. I didn't ask her. I'll have to tell you offline because
All right, you gonna tell me
yeah,
all.
I didn't ask her first.
Wait until you have a little girl. You talking about
Gosh.
right there, wrapped around
Yeah.
your finger, you're in serious trouble.
Yeah.
Mine is a smart aleck to the 10th degree.
I believe it.
She totally sticks up for herself, which I love. She's been bullied because of her special needs, but she will put you in your place so
Mm,
quick. But she's also one of the biggest pranksters I've ever met in my life. Her and my husband prank each other on the daily. Like, it's
love it.
not funny. It isn't. People are like, "What did she do now? What is she up to now?" She, for April Fool's, she's like, "Dad, you've done so much. I wanted to give you one of my gift cards." And he was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, go have breakfast on me." So he and I were talking, and I was telling him about some stuff I was getting ready to do, and he was like, "Where's Faith?" And I said, "Oh." And he goes, "Hey, I want to show you, sweetie. I'm in line to get Dunkin' Donuts. Thank you again for my gift card." And she's like, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he goes up, and they're like, "Oh, your totals, whatever, whatever." And he hands the gift card. He goes, "My beautiful little girl gave me this gift card as a gift." And they said, "Sir, this card's not even activated."
I knew that was coming.
Right.
That's
And
hilarious.
she was like, "I went to the store and told them what I was doing at the checkout, and they gave me a card because I wasn't
Oh
putting any money
wow.
on it, and I gave it to Dad." And I was like, "Oh my."
Did he at least bring like his card so that he could
Oh
pay
yeah.
for what?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But
Uh,
this is, small compared. They'll go to the. He took her to go get something at the pharmacy, and she's walking around, and she yells, "Hey, Dad, Dad, do you need to get some Depends in case you can't make it home? And what is it that you need so it doesn't happen again? Is it, is it, is it?" And she's like trying to remember, and she goes, "Is it um fiber, or is it a laxative, or is it a suppository? I don't
oh
remember."
wow. How old is she?
She's 16 and a
That's
half, but
funny.
she's developmentally delayed, so she's a little bit younger. Um,
I love it. I love
but
it.
it's constant. It's constant. You have no idea what's coming and when it's going to happen, and it's just like, y'all better keep me out of it. I'm
Oh
serious.
my
She
gosh.
took the if you really want to get somebody, she says, "Mom, I love you. Don't go in your bathroom and use the toilet." I said, "Why?" And she had taken one of those extra strength lint rollers, taken the roller part of it off. It looks like toilet paper. She put it in the place of the toilet paper, like once everybody was getting ready to go to sleep for the night,
Oh
and
man.
waited for Dad to have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night.
She's clever. She's
She's so
clever.
smart. She's so smart. And then he looks at me, and I have like tears coming down my face because I'm like, he's like, "Don't egg her on and laugh." And I'm like,
Ooh, I bet that hurt to take that off though.
"What?"
Oh gosh, man, that's hilarious. Y'all have a lot of fun in your household, huh?
We do, because that's what it's about. You start early traditions. Start traditions now with your son. When
Mm,
we're at the table, there's no phones, no headsets, no iPhones, no, nothing. It is a table of the conversation of the people you love, and it's about how your day was, and that's it. Like,
mm,
that is what it is, and that mealtime is uninterrupted. That's our
mm,
family time. And we started doing traditions, and we keep them going because it's so important. Because, like, people now, when we were young, we go and play out until the street lights came on and go to our friends, and now everybody's like, "Oh, I just talked to my friend on FaceTime. I don't need to go over there. Why would I go to the house?"
I
And,
know, right? Why would I
and
go outside?
right. And I mean, it's like, I don't want to go outside and get sweaty. It's hot outside. I'd rather sit inside and do nothing of importance. My daughter and she knows, no, I'm not a video game advocate. She gets the phone only after schoolwork is done. And I tell her, if she doesn't do it, I'm like, "I'm not taking it away. You're choosing not to have it today because you chose not to
Mm,
do your work."
I like that. I like that.
And then they can't be like, "You took my phone away," and blah, blah,
Yeah, that's a great.
blah.
Gosh, I'm excited to take notes when I rewatch this. Man, that's a great. That's a great. I love the way you put that.
Yeah, because I'm like, I didn't choose not to do my schoolwork. I chose to educate you. I homeschool you. But if you choose not to do it, you choose not to have your phone. And she only gets so much time on her phone, and it cuts off
Mm,
at a certain time. And it's, if you don't finish it in time and you don't get your time, then that's on you. So she recognizes that. And I'm like, "I'm not taking anything away from you. You're
mm.
taking it away from yourself." And that really resonates with the kids.
Yes, it's I want to bring up one quick thing because I want to give my son a shout out too because this morning, so usually we'll, when before we eat, we'll pray and then we'll say amen. And so when we first started doing it, we would we would grab his hands, we would all hold our hands and we would pray and then we'd say amen. And he, when he was younger, he would just rip his hand away and try and go at the food, rip his hand. And then as he got older, as we kept doing it, he would, he'd hold our hands, but then he'd say amen before we even start praying. He would just say
Right?
amen, then
You're
start.
good.
And then check this out. This morning, I made him breakfast. And while I made him breakfast, and then I went to go make myself some coffee or something like that. And I just hear him from the table saying, amen, amen, amen. And then I look at him and his hand is out towards me saying, amen. And I was like, oh my gosh, here I come, buddy. And I ran over there and I was like, how amazing. I was like, that's the coolest thing that that I just that I witnessed today was him. And like you said, just being consistent and doing that traditionally, it reminded him. And I was like, yes, like thank you for reminding daddy to be grateful for food and grateful that he has food to give you and provide. Man, that was just a beautiful thing.
It's a moment you'll cherish. You'll absolutely
Yes.
cherish that. Oh, I love it. Tell me about your nonprofit. What and how did you come about it? Where did this all stem from?
Okay, so I was literally okay, so we were in Taylor, Texas, right outside of Austin in our house, and I was sitting on the couch. And I think at that point in my life, so this was October of 2021, I want to say, a couple months after my son was born, actually. And I was sitting in our house on the couch, and I think at that point in my life, I was just trying to figure out what like how I can give back. I was in the military, and of course, I was giving back there, but I was like, I want to do something outside of it. Like, I want to do something
Thank you
that
for
I'm
your service.
absolutely, absolutely. And so yeah, I mean, I was just like, what what more can I do, right? And so I literally had this. It felt like a whisper in my ear. Ripple effect fatherhood. Like it just ripple effect fatherhood. And then when I heard that, I was like, okay, it makes sense because I've always looked at the fact that I don't have or I didn't grow up with my father. I've always looked at that as a weakness of mine or as a deficiency of mine. And here comes God and he says, what you think is your weakness, I'm going to
Your strength.
make your strength, right? And I'm going to use it. I'm going to use what you think is your weakness to bless as many people, as many people as possible. And so I was like, okay, awesome. Let's do it. And so I told my wife, I was like, hey, we should start a nonprofit, Ripple Effect Fatherhood. And we had all these ideas. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. Right. Like I don't know how to, file for, through the IRS. I don't know how to organize events. But over some time, what the Lord told me was, hey, all I need you to hold on to is the why.
Right.
I was like, he said, I'll take care of the how, I'll take care of the what, I'll take care of the rest. What I need you to do is hold on to the why. And so Ripple Effect Fatherhood, really what we aim to do is promote, inspire, and encourage the positive presence of fatherhood in the lives of everyone. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. I mean, even though I was in Woodstock, Illinois, where the demographic was different, there was still plenty of kids from, doesn't matter the color of their skin. There's plenty of kids that either didn't have a father in the home or didn't have a positive presence of fatherhood, right? Because you can have a father in the home, but your experience can be very negative.
Correct.
And so what we aim to do is to, like I said, just inspire a positive presence in the lives of as many people as possible. And as we've kind of gone along with this nonprofit, so far we've got the podcast, we've got the YouTube channel, and these conversations are meant to inspire dads out there from all walks of life. And so I've had conversations with a lot of different men who we talk about their challenges, but we make sure to always talk about, hey, how did you overcome that though? Right? Like, so I don't want to just talk about, what you think you lacked as a father or what challenges you had. I want to talk about how you overcame it because there's somebody that's listening, even if it's just one person who is going through what you went through or similar, and you could be the factor that keeps them in that home. And because I and that's really what I see. That's my vision for this nonprofit, is to be that one. You said something actually earlier, I want this nonprofit at the very least to be that tiny little flicker
Flicker of
that
light.
ignites, yes, that ignites that
Wildfire.
fatherhood. Oh my gosh, that lights that fire in a that fatherhood fire in a man and says, hey, I'm gonna stay and I'm gonna work through you know what I mean? I'm gonna stay, I'm gonna make myself better, I'm gonna work through, whatever the case, you're gonna stay in the home and you're gonna be in those kids' lives because it's not just about you, it's about them, it's about their kids, it's about even, even the dads that I saw when I would go to these my basketball games and my and my basketball practices and football and all these sports that I did, just them being positive fathers they've impacted me. And I've had a lot of them on our show. My basketball coach from 8th grade, my gosh, he changed my life in a major way, not just from being a basketball coach, but how I saw him interact with his own kids. Right. And so it's just so important. And that's where the ripple effect name comes from, because it just takes one little drop of goodness or one little drop of positivity for it to ripple into the lives of everybody else or around you. And really, you don't even have to know it's happening. So
Have you thought about mentoring? Like have some start out and say, I go through and research you, and if you're good to go, there's so many kids out there that could use that father figure, and even if they're not local, they could Zoom and they could play a game, they could do cards together, they could do a game online together, they could tell stories, read a book together, watch a movie together. There's so many things that they could do that even if they're not geographically placed within the same region or area or state that they're in, that they could have that big brother but big dad presence for those that have no one.
yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because before we left, so we were living in Taylor for about a year, and sorry that I just sweat when I talk, but it's excitement. It's excitement. Okay, I promise. But
It's listening.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But I so we were in Taylor, Texas for a little over a year, and that's actually where I started mentoring because like we talked about, that was just one of the ways that the Lord was like, hey, here's something that I want you to do with your nonprofit. Now I didn't start like a mentorship program, but it's something that I it's one of the dreams that I had. But what I did was I started looking for opportunities within the community. And so, I found opportunities at the middle school. I'd go mentor and just like you said, I'd go sit there and play Uno with some of the kids during their lunchtime. And I mean, it was great. At first, they're like, who is this kid? Like, he's like, is he in high school? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because I was military, I always had to stay shaved. So sometimes they thought I was a high school kid myself. But it ended up, me being consistent, me going consistently, really kind of opened those doors for me to be some kind of positive influence to them. And then, there was opportunities at the not at the high school, but at the intermediate school out there. And we ended up moving to Charlotte. That's where we live now. So unfortunately, I'm not connected with them in person anymore, but I definitely will reach out to those administrators at the school, because just like we're on Zoom, before I left there, I told them I was actually mentoring one kid specifically right before I left, and we kind of left suddenly. And but I want to reconnect with him. So it's something that has been very important to me, and something that, like you said, I know is very important in our society, is having somebody, those kids that don't have the fathers at home or maybe don't have a positive experience, having somebody to give that to them so they can see it and they know it's there.
Absolutely. And it makes such a big difference, especially in a kid's life, because, I tell everybody, like women, they say, well, this is all I deserve. I'll never get any better. Well, you have kids. Is that how you want your child, your son or your daughter to realize that that's okay to be treated that way? That a man can put his hands on a woman in an unwarranted manner, or vice versa, because women are aggressive too. Do you want your daughter or son to think that that is the way of life? Or do you want them to utilize that that's the footprints they want to go away from, step by step, heel to heel, and go in the opposite direction? You need to show them that they are worth it if you don't think you are, and then we're going to make everybody see that you are. But the kids, if they're hitting the spouse, they're going to hit the kids. I don't care how many people tell me different. I know I have so many beautiful people I get to work with, and they've all said the same thing. Oh, they won't, they won't, they did. They did.
Mm.
They ended up hitting my child. I'm working with one of the most beautiful women I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And it's hard because you get very attached to them and they end up becoming like family. And he actually killed their oldest of four kids. And it started with her. And she's like, I wish I had listened to my voice in my head saying, you have to get out, you have to get out. But I kept worrying about my kids not having a male role model. And then he killed our son, our oldest. And he didn't
Wow.
do any jail time. And I said, now, and she's like, I tell them you could be this way or you could be the right way. And,
Mm.
it's so important to have a positive role model in their lives, even just to have someone to talk
Mm-hmm.
to vent to, because they always have the mom. They always can go to mom and say, this is what happened. But especially for boys, I would think that they have things they want to talk about with dad that they're not so comfortable to talk about with mom.
Yes.
And then if they don't have that, then who do they go to? Where do they go? And that's concerning.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I heard a quote recently that kids learn with they learn, I don't know the specific terminology, but basically they learn with their eyes before they learn with their ears.
Mm-hmm.
So like I can tell you not to do something, but if you see me doing it, then you're learning that it's okay to do it. And you're not learning that it's not okay to do it because I told you. You're learning that it's okay because you're watching me do it.
Right.
And so that has been something that even in my life, like, not to say that I'm doing anything crazy, but I'm watching every little thing that I do in front of him, because just like you said, like, there's a certain way that I'd like for him to be, not specific, right? He's his own person.
Mhm.
But for example, I want him to dream. I want him to be ambitious. I want him to not be limited by, anything that society tells him that he can't be. But am I living that in my own life? Right? And so when I heard that quote, I was like, oh man, that's very, very powerful. Like, because if I'm and not to um make anybody feel a certain type of way, but that's just the honest truth of it. I mean, if I'm telling my kid, hey, you can be whatever you want in this life, but I'm not living that, then they'll follow the same pattern because of what they see.
That's right. Absolutely right. I see such greatness with you and what you're doing and what you're trying to reach out to do. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so we are currently on Instagram at re.fatherhood. And then I believe Facebook is the same way, or you can YouTube our we have a YouTube channel called Ripple Effect Fatherhood. Just go on there. I don't think there's another Ripple Effect Fatherhood out there. I haven't found one yet, but also we're on all social media platforms. Ripple Effect Fatherhood, you'll find us, Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, all that good stuff.
That is
And
fantastic.
you can also email us. My wife, she'd be mad if I don't, but you can email us with any questions whatsoever. The email is ripple effect cooperation at gmail.com.
Do you have a quote that you want to give us before we go?
The quote that I tell my son every night is this: you're an artist at work and a work of art, and you were created to create. And I want you to always protect your imagination. And if anything else, always look for the joy in your day.
I love that. That's amazing. Will you promise me to come back on again?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. You kidding me? Will you promise me to have me on again? Please.
Absolutely. You got to tell me though, how was your first interview?
Man, from the time, like from the time we got on, I just appreciate you so much for from the time we got on, you've made me feel extremely welcomed. You've made me
Oh,
feel
thank you.
extremely comfortable. Yes. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Like,
And I
I
didn't
didn't
have to pay
know.
you to say this.
Yeah, seriously. I didn't know what to expect coming on here. I just knew that before I got on here, I just, what I mean, took some deep breaths and I was like, okay, I just wanna pour pour goodness out of me into whatever conversation we have. And we got on and you started pouring into me immediately. And so this has been one of the greatest experiences that I think I've ever had, and I'm excited to do more of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next time.